Hello everyone, it's Hannah here from Virtually Fluent. Today we're looking at a really complex topic, which is negative adverbs. Basically, simple adverbs but have a negative meaning. Now the structure, their position in the sentence, the type of verbs that can be used with them is all really complicated, and we also have a fun structure called inversion which we can use with these negative adverbs too. We're going to learn all of this in today's video, but if you'd like any support with this topic, there is a negative adverbs course. I've left the link to that in the description below. Now, an adverb is a special word that can modify a verb, an adjective, or another adverb. A negative adverb simply has a negative meaning, but it has the same function. We have lots of different types of adverbs: frequency, degree, place, time, manner. We're going to look at the typical negative adverbs in each of these cases. So let's start with the adverbs of frequency. The negative adverbs of frequency you can see listed here. Now we have two which absolutely mean 0%, something does not happen, both no longer and never. Just note that no longer is a slightly different one because it means before something did used to happen, but then you changed and now this does not happen. And we also have some negative adverbs which are slightly more than 0%, let's say 5-10%. With negative adverbs of frequency, they tend to separate the subject and the verb. For example, I hardly dance, or I never dance. But this becomes slightly different when we have an auxiliary verb. I have hardly ever cooked. Now you can see that the negative adverb of frequency separates the auxiliary verb and the main verb. Or I have never cooked. The only one that's different is the verb to be. The verb to be is pretty selfish. Even if it's the only verb in the sentence, in the present simple or past simple tenses, it must go first. So with the verb to be, it would be subject, verb to be, then our adverb of frequency, and then the rest of the sentence. For example, I am seldom upset. Adverbs of place are slightly different. Typically, we have the word nowhere, and this will go right at the end of a sentence. They are going nowhere. We can use the expression nowhere to plus infinitive. She is nowhere to be seen. We have nowhere to go. Adverbs of time are exactly the same as adverbs of frequency in their position in a sentence. Typically, they go in between the subject and the main verb. For example, we at no time liked this idea. But when we have an auxiliary verb, the adverb separates the auxiliary verb and the main verb. We have at no time liked this idea. And of course, if we have the verb to be, remember that is selfish, that must be the first part in the sentence. We were not once in agreement. Special adverb of time is no sooner, because we can create a two-part phrase with the word than. We had no sooner started the film than the electricity went out. Moving on to adverbs of degree, these are exactly the same as time and frequency. They separate the subject and the main verb. At the time, we little knew we'd never meet again. If there is an auxiliary verb, then the adverb separates the auxiliary verb and the main verb. They have barely finished the project. But if we have the verb to be, that must go first. We are scarcely working. And this is exactly the same for adverbs of manner too. We under no circumstances work with you. But if there is an auxiliary verb, that must go first, and the adverb separates the auxiliary verb from the main verb. We have in no way changed the plan. But if we have the verb to be, that must go first. We are on no condition entering that building. It doesn't matter if the verb to be is used as either an auxiliary verb or as a single main verb in the sentence, it must go first. Now, something that's really important to note in all of these sentences is that the negative adverb must be used with a positive verb. This is because we cannot have double negatives in English. All of these adverbs already have a negative meaning, so verbs will always be affirmative with negative adverbs. Now, something that I'd like to introduce to you is the technique of inversion, emphasis and inversion. This is when we really want to emphasize the negative adverb. It's particularly used in more formal situations, not necessarily everyday English, but it certainly expresses outrage and a little bit more drama in your sentence. So in order to do this, we take our simple sentences with a negative adverb and we put that negative adverb at the beginning of the sentence. It must be the first most important word. And then what we need to do is flip or invert the subject and the first verb in the sentence. So we're left with, hardly ever have I cooked. At no time have we liked this idea. Scarcely are we working. On no condition are we entering that building. And it doesn't matter what kind of structure we're using, the verb to be, an auxiliary verb, a main verb, this is exactly the same for every single negative adverb sentence. The only ones you need to be careful of are the present simple and the past simple tenses. And this is because the auxiliary verb for these tenses isn't present in an affirmative sentence. So we start in exactly the same way for inversion and we put our negative adverb at the beginning, but now we need to insert the auxiliary verb for these tenses. In the present tense, do or does, and in the past tense, did. Hardly do I dance. Never does she dance. At no time did I like this idea. So when we're inverting with present and past simple tenses, it's a little bit more complicated. Now there's one final negative adverb that I'd like to look at, and this is the word only. This is typically used as a two-part sentence. Only if. I will only go to the shops if you come with me. Only when. I will only watch the film when you've tidied your room. Only until. I will only work until 4 p.m. And only after. I will only help after you've tried yourself. So these are setting conditions. You can see that they are typically conditional sentences. The only difference is when we invert and emphasize sentences with only, it's a little bit more complicated. First, we need to put together our two-part onlys, only if, only until. And that together goes at the beginning of the sentence with the second part of the sentence. We totally flip around the phrase. Only when you've tidied your room, and then the first part of the sentence becomes the second part of the sentence, and we need to flip the subject and the first verb. Only if you come with me will I go to the shops. Only when you've tidied your room will we watch the film. And those are all the key negative adverbs in English that will hopefully make your language sound a little bit more perfect, but also more exciting in your conversation. If you learned something new in today's video, please go ahead and give it a like, leave me a comment, or practice using negative adverbs by writing a comment below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn those notifications on. And we're not just on YouTube, but across all different social media channels. I've left the links to all of those channels in the description below. This is Hannah from Virtually Fluent, bringing English to life.